So we have to search for the Jmeter load download. So it will navigate. You can search for Apache Jmeter site, and we'll be having
Yeah.
here in this site every time whenever there is a new release happens, they will update this site with the latest version.
Download releases. Okay.
Yeah. So the latest version they will always keep it in this site. So
Yeah.
now the latest version is 3.2, which will be
Yeah.
required a JDK 8. So JRE 8 or JDK 1.8. It is good to have a JDK installed.
Okay.
So instead of JRE. So Jmeter will work even if you have only JRE, but it is better if you install the JDK total, full JDK. So it will be having JRE also.
Okay.
Okay, so we have to just download this zip file, Apache Jmeter 3.2.zip, and we just extract that file into one folder. So just extraction of that file will make the installation. We don't have to specifically install any software. So
Yeah.
just download, extract, and start using it.
Okay.
So for 3.2 JRE 8 you should have it, or JDK 1.8 you should have it minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So just have to navigate to the bin folder of JMeter wherever you have extracted. So
Yeah.
you can go to Apache JMeter on jar file will be there. You can open by using this directly,
Okay.
Apache JMeter jar file. So it will open you the JMeter GUI. So this is the in the latest version they have made this status bar. So when you launching the JMeter, so in the 3.2 version they have made it. In older versions we don't get this message as
Okay.
loading it. So in the until
Okay.
3.1 we have to wait until this window comes up, but in 3.2 they made it this status bar.
Okay. So normally we'll open with the batch file, right?
Yeah, so this is the one way, and so where you can open the jar file. The other way is you can go to JMeter bat file. You can open the JMeter bat file. You can
Yeah.
open the JMeter bat file. So this also open the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And the other way is you just have to go to command prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Go to command prompt and navigate to the folder where JMeter was extracted.
Okay.
So let's say in my case, it is there in the D drive softwares. So I have to,
Apache.
so first I have to navigate to the D drive. So now the path is in D drive. So now I have to navigate to the D drive where our JMeter is installed. Up to bin folder we have to navigate.
Yeah.
JMeter bin folder. So just copy that path and type CD. So change the directory to whatever the path you want to. So now you'll be in the D wherever your bin folder is available.
Okay.
Jmeter bin folder is available. Now you can type Jmeter, so it will launch Jmeter.
Okay.
So this is the third way. So, so these are the three ways you can launch Jmeter GUI mode.
Okay.
So you can use any one method to open the Jmeter, whichever you feel comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So basically, when we open, we'll be having basically we'll get test plan and workbench. So
Yeah.
workbench will be used for a recording purpose, whatever the work we are planning to record. So it will be having non-test elements.
Okay.
So we can use a script recorder to by using which we can record the scripts. Whatever the
Okay.
functionality you want to test it, we'll use the HTTP test script recorder. So the
Okay.
this is in the latest versions they made they renamed it into test script recorder. In older versions up to 3 or 2.8, the name is proxy recorder. So
Okay.
in the Google, if you search for how to record or whatever the discussions that they talk about, they all everywhere you can see proxy recording, which is nothing but a test script recorder.
Okay.
So they just renamed that name the recorder as a proxy to test script recorder. And
Yeah.
test plan is the place where your actual workflow, whatever you want to record, the functionality will be placed under the test plan.
Explain. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one you can iterate for as many number of iterations duration you want to test it. You can test that one.
Okay.
And before going to recording, so we have to do some configurations at the browser level. So this is the UI they have changed for the test script recorder also in the 3.2. Earlier we'll be having a single
Okay.
page. Single page. We will not be
Yeah.
having two tabs here. Only one. We will not be having any tabs here. And this
Yeah.
start, stop, and restart will be at the bottom in the
Yeah.
old versions GUI. So they just changed the GUI of test script recorder in the 3.2.
Okay.
So in the test plan creation, we will be having a port, right? So the
Yeah.
port is the port. What are the port that is you have to configure first to record the scripting. So the
Yeah.
Jmeter will be able to communicate with the browser, so that whatever you are navigating in the browser, it will able to record. So
Okay.
to have a communication between the browser and Jmeter, you have to configure the port.
Okay.
So this port should be free in your system. So the same port you will configure in the browser as well.
Okay.
So you can use any one browser, any IE, Mozilla, Chrome, whatever be the browser, you can use any browser. But we'll
Mm.
use Mozilla as part of our training purpose.
Okay.
So it supports all the three browsers. So you go to the tools, options,
Yeah.
advanced.
Yeah.
In the advanced, you have to go to network, and then we have settings.
Yeah.
Select the manual proxy and provide the proxy as a local host. And this port you have to mention. Whatever the port you are mentioning here, the same port you should apply in the JMeter.
Yeah.
So this port should be free in your machine. It should not be used by any other application.
Yeah.
So you have to provide that port. And before saying apply, okay, you have to make sure that there is no under no proxy for you should not see whatever the machine IP address you have mentioned here. If it is a
Okay.
local host or 120 local host IP is 127.0.0.1, right? So either local host and 127.0.0.1 should not be available under no proxy for.
Okay.
So why? Because here we are saying that use the proxy for this IP, but again we are saying that no proxy for the same. So that is the reason you have to make sure that this whatever the IP you are providing or the name you are providing here, it should not be located under no proxy section. Then
Okay. Yeah.
only the tool can able to capture the communication.
Okay.
So if you are when you are recording, if it is not able to capture it is not able to record, then you have to make sure that under no proxy whether this IP address or the name is mentioned or not.
Okay.
Okay. So once that configuration is done, then we have to provide the same IP address here, 81. So so here you can provide if domains, HTTPS domains. So let's say normally when you are accessing the application, sometimes when you click on one link, it will navigate to some other page. So it will be a different URL, the domain and everything.
Mm.
Okay, if it has to
Okay.
record on different domains, if it was involved, then the application, if the to instruct the JMeter to record on the new domain also, then you'll mention all the domain names.
Okay.
Here you will mention all the domain names. Let's say normally you are accessing one application. So if that application is calling some other URL, which is not relevant to
Okay.
this URL, so that URL is different. So your base URL, let's say google.com, everything will relate to the google.com, you'll get it. But suddenly in middle you may get amazon.com
Okay.
when you click on some link. So if you don't mention that domain, it will not record that activities what you do on the Amazon.net that site. So
Okay.
to capture the events on that site also, then you have to mention all those domains here, whatever domains that are
Okay.
involved as part of your application.
Okay.
So here the target controller we have to mention in which section it has to record in the test plan. So
Yeah.
here we will provide that target controller. So these groups will say the differences between each group, how it has to record.
Okay.
And here it is a retrieve all embedded resources. So when you are accessing, it will retrieve all embedded resources, nothing but it will capture, it will download all the relevant resources that are when the page is loading. It will retrieve all the images, resources which are relevant to that page, JS, CSS, images, everything.
Okay.
Similarly, redirect automatically or follow redirect. So these are like when you are submitting some request, if it is having some redirections are happening internally.
Yeah.
So as a user, you'll see only the main page. When you click on the link, you'll get some page as a response. But to get that page, it might be redirect to some other URLs in backend. So if you want to capture
Yeah.
those, you can say redirect automatically or follow the redirects.
Okay.
So these things you'll say, and in the request filtering. So if you want to filter some of the uh, patterns, whether you don't want to record images or any JS files. So like that, if you have anything, then you can add here, which are the patterns
Mm.
that you want to exclude.
Okay.
So you can add whatever you want to exclude, you can add here, or else by default it will show some suggested excludes. So these are the
Okay.
suggestions. It's already there. So if you want to add to this, you can add yours here itself, additional to this.
Okay.
Okay. So whatever the URLs that are coming up while recording, which has image files, GSS files, JS files, then it will not record in the script.
Okay.
Okay. So here URL patterns to include the same, whatever the different types of URLs if you want to include, and some of them you don't want to include, then you can mention this include and then. So basically, this is like a filtering. What all you want to record, what all you don't want to record it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's add the images. We want to exclude the images. So I have just add suggested exclude. So when we are recording, it will not record images or JS files, whatever it was mentioned here.
Okay.
So in the test plan, we have different elements, different types of elements we have. One is
Okay.
threads. Okay.
Yeah.
Threads is nothing but users. So how many users you want to test, how many concurrent users you want to test the application. So that is all about
Okay.
in that in the thread section, we'll keep how many users you want to test it. So
Okay.
So by default on the threads we have thread group, setup thread group. By default will be having only three when you download the new version. And when you open the Jmeter, you can see only three thread groups. One is setup thread group,
Okay.
and then tear down thread group. Okay. So
Okay.
if you want additional threads, then you have to download the plugins. So these are the additional threads that was downloaded because of the plugin. Additional plugin we have downloaded.
Okay.
So by default, when you download the application, this JMeter, you have seen by default few functionalities. If you want additional functionalities to be used, then there are already few plugins available, already developed plugins.
Okay.
So you can download those plugins. So if those are not available, then if you are good at coding using JMeter, not JMeter, if you are good at Java, you can create your own.
Java. Yeah.
If you can create your own plugin using the Eclipse.
Okay.
So based on the functionality, if certain specific functionality plugin is not available as part of your
Okay.
application that is required, then if you are good at coding in Java, you can create your own plugin and use it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but by default, most of the things are already available. Okay, so to before going to the recording, first we have to add the thread group. Okay,
Okay.
so this is the basically if we say thread group, here we'll mention how it has to execute once the errors is coming up, what it has to do. Let's say you have started the
Okay.
test. So if you are seeing some errors, what it has to do? It has to continue or start the next thread, or stop the thread, or stop the test, or stop the test now.
Okay.
So continue, it will continue even though errors are coming, but in the start next thread loop, it will go to the next iteration.
Okay.
So it will stop that the first iteration, then again it will start from the starting.
Yeah.
So stop thread, it will stop that specific thread, a specific
Okay.
user who is getting the errors. Stop test will stop the test. So the execution, it will stop it. You say stop
Okay.
test now, it will immediately stop the execution. Here it will gradually
Okay.
execute the test, but here it will immediately stop the test.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say continue. And in the number of threads, as it is the users. So how many concurrent users you want to test?
Yeah.
So that will mention under this. So let's say 10 users. So this ramp up time, within how much time these 10 users has to log into the application or
Okay.
launch the URL. The first activity within how many seconds these users has to start.
Okay.
So let's say if you say 60 seconds, so within 60 seconds, all the 10 users will start their activity. They are all active within the 60 seconds time.
Okay.
So that
All
means,
of them.
yeah, all of them. So that means
Okay.
gradually one user every 6 seconds it will ramp up.
Okay.
But within 60 seconds, all users are up and running.
Okay.
So when it comes to the loop count, you can provide how many times you want to execute this, the iterations, number of iterations, how many times you want to run this, 2 times or 3 times, you can give that number.
Okay.
So, or if you want forever, then you'll mention forever. So it will continuously in the infinite loop, it will run.
Okay.
So in the scheduler, we can mention how much specific duration. Let's say you have to run a test for 1 hour, then you'll provide the
Mm-hmm.
duration. So it is
Oh.
all in the seconds. So you have to make sure that you are providing a sufficient number of seconds.
Okay.
So if you are done for 1 hour, then you have to provide 3,600 seconds and provide the start and end time.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you want to start the test after a few minutes, then you can provide the delay. Even if you start the run, but if you want to start it a bit of delay, then we'll say delay of seconds.
Okay.
So this is the scheduler.
Yeah.
So do you have any knowledge on the load runner?
Sorry. No.
Okay. So since there to do these settings, we have a different component called controller.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
here we don't have such kind of component. Here within the thread group itself, we will do everything.
Okay.
Okay. So this way we'll set the thread group, how many users for how much ramp up, how many iterations it has to execute, or how much duration we have to run this specific thread group. So this information we can keep
Yeah.
in the thread group.
Okay.
So in the basically in the thread group, we'll record
Yeah.
the actions what we have to perform, the actual functionality what we have to test it.
Okay.
Okay. So similarly, we have tier down thread group.
Okay.
So the basic we have three types. One is thread group, setup thread group, tier down thread group. So
Okay.
these are the three by default we'll get it. Okay.
Okay.
So thread group will be having actual functionality what we are testing it.
Okay.
Setup thread group means this is the setup. So if you want to set up your environment, like you have
Okay.
to do some testing, you will be required some test data to be created.
Okay.
So those activity will record under setup thread group.
Okay.
So until unless that specific functionality is the test data is created, you cannot proceed with your execution. Let's say you have to you will be required 10 logins. Okay.
Okay.
So to do
Okay.
that logins, you have to do a registration. Okay, but as part of your testing registration functionality was not there. Okay, as part of
Okay.
load testing, you don't have to do the registration. So for that,
Okay.
but to get the logins, you have to
Yeah.
perform some registration. Okay, so you'll record that
Okay.
part in the setup thread group registration side. So then,
Okay.
then those user IDs will use in the thread group.
Okay.
So this is basically the setup thread group is to create the test data
Okay.
or make the environment ready for your executions. So
Yeah.
that specific functionality only will run in this.
Okay.
So there is no mandatory that you have to compulsory use it. Either you can use thread group itself and you will create the test data. Then again you will do one more test with actual executions.
Okay. Yeah.
So there is no necessity that you have to compulsory use it. By using thread group itself, you will run it. Then take the data and create one more scenario and run that. That way also you can do it.
Okay.
So, but mostly we'll do that same. We'll run in the thread group itself, and then we'll create one more scenario and we'll run the test. That way we'll follow. But if you want to avoid that time consuming, since there you have
Okay.
to do multiple times, right? Instead of that, if you want to use in the same test, then you can use the setup thread group.
Okay.
So the tier down thread group is if you want to clear the environment. So sometimes what happens, so the test for the test, whatever the data that was utilized, it cannot be used.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to again you have to rebuild the let's say the database has to be restored, or you have to delete some
Okay.
of the records from the application
Okay.
to start the next execution. So to start the next
Okay.
execution, you have to do some prerequisites like deleting the data or adding, restoring the database. So such kind of activities
Okay.
you can add in the tear down thread group.
Okay.
So that kind of functionality,
So
yeah, it's a cleanup
can't we do
activity.
that in normal?
Everything can be done in the thread group itself if you want it. But if you want them
Okay.
all parallelly, you can use these two thread groups.
Okay. Okay.
So these two are just optional. If you want to use it, you can use it. Otherwise, you can do it in the thread group itself.
Okay.
So basically, what we do after our execution is done, we can manually do it, or we can create one more script. We'll create one scenario for that separately, and then you will do
Okay.
that clearance. But
Okay.
but instead of that, if you want to do it within the same test, then you can do that by adding this thread group.
Okay. Yeah.
So these two are the just optional thing. So either if you want to use it, you can use it, or you can do the traditional way of doing it by using the same thread group.
Okay.
But this will be a different test.
Yeah.
So these are the thread groups we have, and additionally, if you want some real-time scenarios should be implemented, so that time we'll use this stepping thread group and ultimate thread group.
Okay.
So normally in real time, if you compare here in the thread group, we are saying
Yeah.
that ramp up all 10 users within the 60 seconds.
Yeah.
But we don't have any control like if I say 100 users, I want to
Yeah.
control that 10 users has to ramp up for every 10 users has to ramp up after every 60 seconds, like that. If you have any control here, we don't
Okay.
have that control, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So all users within this time it will be ramped up, but we don't have a control batch it has to ramp up 10 users for every
Okay.
20 seconds. First 10 users 20 seconds, next 10 users and the 20 seconds. So this way you
Okay.
cannot ramp up, but in real time we most of the times we'll use that way. So every 10 users has to ramp up 15 seconds or like that you'll control.
Okay.
So in those scenarios we'll go for real time scenarios, that is step up thread group or ultimate thread group.
Okay.
So these, whatever the additional three or the BZM, these are related to the blaze meters.
Okay.
So normal Jmeter will use only these two. So total five thread groups will be there as part of Jmeter.
Okay.
So stepping thread group and ultimate thread group. So these two will be visible only if you install the plugin. So
Okay.
later we'll see how that plugins can be installed.
Okay.
So stepping thread group. If you see here, the same thing. So how it has to execute. But here we'll say start the total how many users you want to test for this specific thread, specific functionality.
Oh,
So let's say 100
okay.
users. But
Yeah.
initially you can say how much time it has to wait. Let's say 5 seconds initially it has to wait. After that, out of this 100, how many it has to start initially.
Okay.
Let's say I want to start 10 threads.
Yeah.
So these 10 threads has to ramp up. Let's say I'm saying 15 seconds.
Okay.
And after that, I want to add 10 users every 30 seconds.
Okay.
So like this, stepwise, it will be ramped up. So
Okay.
first 5 seconds it was waited initially. After that, 10
Oh,
users ramped up for
yeah.
15 seconds. Within 15 seconds, it was ramped up. And I'm
Yeah.
saying that wait for 30 seconds and then add 10 users. So 30 seconds it was waiting. Then again 10 users starting. So
Okay.
5 seconds plus 15, 20 seconds plus 30, 50 seconds. So after 50 seconds, again the second batch of 10 users is started.
Okay.
So these 10 users will ramp up within 30 seconds.
Okay.
Means in 15 seconds they will ramp up. Another set will start after 30 seconds. So like this stepwise they will do. Right. So
Okay.
every 10 users they are ramping up for within 15 seconds. Every 10 users they are ramping up.
Yeah.
So this way you can control the stepwise the users will increase. Instead of putting more load on the server at a single shot, we'll say that
Okay.
gradually will increase the users.
Okay.
So here we'll say how much time you want to run the test. So 1 hour, then we'll say 3600 seconds. So gradually,
Okay.
how you want to stop the users, you can give that every five users for every 1 second or every 5 seconds. So this is the ramp down. How the users has to ramp down.
Okay.
So how to stop their executions. So this is the ramp up and ramp down.
Okay.
So even if you keep the ramp up sudden spike, let's say most of the users you are saying, let's say you have to test for 100 users and you are saying that ramp up within 5 seconds. There is a
Yeah.
possibility that application may not be able to support 100 logins, 100 launching URLs or logins at 5 seconds of speed within 5 seconds. In
Okay.
reality, that might not be happening, or the infra or the application may not be able to support. So you have to be make sure that the proper ramp up is has been given.
Okay.
So unnecessarily, we are putting more load on the servers, where the launching and login part will take more resource on the server side.
Okay.
Since it will load all the images first time, right? So it will take more load on the server. So that can cause higher response times and even the CPU or memory side, it will take more memory and more CPU as well.
Okay.
So that is the reason you will have to be cautious about the ramp up. So sometimes so because of not properly provided the ramp up, your SLAs may breach for the launching and logging.
Okay.
The ramp down time you can give the faster ramp down, but normally even during the ramp down also, if you make it faster, you will get some errors because all users suddenly
Okay.
stopping their execution and exiting out of the application. So more load will happen on the logout page. So
Okay.
that also keep more load and you will get some errors. But during the ramp down time, we'll ignore that errors since that is at exit phase. So we'll ignore that. Even we get some errors at this phase, we'll ignore those errors since
Okay.
that is because of the RAM down we have been provided.
Okay.
But during the ramp up, if you are getting errors, then you have to analyze why it is getting. It could be because of our the speed that we have given. The less time
Okay.
might have given for the ramp up.
Okay.
So then we have ultimate thread group. So this
Yeah.
also same way to the stepping. So but here we can add bunch of people, users gradually. So here let's say here we don't have a control to run for specific users for specific duration.
Okay.
So here I am saying that it has to start 100 users, but all 100 users has to run for 1 hour. I don't have
Okay.
a controller. I don't have a control here where I will say only 50 users has to run starting. After half an
Mm-hmm.
hour, another 50 users has to start.
Okay.
So that control I don't have here. So here I have the control is from 100 users, I can gradually ramp up them with the batches wise.
Okay.
But I cannot say that start with 50 users. After half an hour, start another 50 users. I cannot say that.
Okay.
So that kind of scenarios you can use in the ultimate thread group.
Okay.
Let's say you will say 100 users, it has to start within 60 seconds, let's assume, or 100 seconds, we'll say. So ramp up is 100 seconds. Then run for 1 hour. Okay. Then you'll
Yeah.
say you have to ramp up, you have to add 50 more users.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to add them after, let's say, after 600 seconds. That's initial delay of adding them after 10 minutes.
Okay.
So for them, I will say another 50 seconds of ramp up, and I will ask them to run for 3,200 seconds.
Okay.
So that means total test will be for 1 hour only, but these guys are starting after 10 minutes and will be
Yeah.
continuing with these 100 users for another 50 minutes.
Okay.
So this way you can use the ultimate thread group.
Okay.
So wherever you want additional users to be ramped up to the site, you can use by using the ultimate thread group. So this is the basically the difference with stepping thread group and ultimate thread group.
Okay.
So in the stepping thread group, in the starting itself, only the starting time you can the ramp up wise you can control, but not in middle of the test. If you want to introduce few more users, you cannot do that. But in ultimate thread
Okay.
group,
Yeah.
you can do that. In middle of the test, you can add additional users.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is the benefit of having this. So after 30 minutes or 40 minutes, you want to use another 10 users, we'll create this setting here.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, this will be helpful when you are doing the capacity test, where you have to run for 5 years growth or 4 years growth. You have to test your infrastructure. So that time it will be
Okay.
helpful, where you will gradually ramp up the users. So we will run for a first year grow users load, and we will run for half an hour. After that, you will add additional second year growth, and again you will run for half
Okay.
an
Yeah.
hour time. So that time it will be
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is all about the different thread groups that we have as part of Jmeter in the test plan. So before
Okay.
getting into the recording, this is the first you have to add. This is the mandate that first you have to add the thread group. Below that only
Yeah.
you can add your script, what are the steps that you have as part of your functionality.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the different thread groups and its purposes.
Yeah. Okay.
So is it clear or any doubts in this thread groups level?
Mm, no doubts. But it was like too many at a time, so I have to refer them again.
Yeah. So but
Yeah.
basic difference you have got it, right? So you can ignore these two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Normally you will not use these two most of the time. Set up thread
Okay.
group and tear down thread group, you can ignore these two.
Okay. Yeah. But till now, I didn't get a chance to use this stepping thread group and ultimate.
Yeah. So, but most of the times in the real time scenario, we'll use these two. If you have to use,
Oh,
if you have to do the customer capacity test, obviously you have to use the ultimate thread group. You don't have another option
okay.
to use it.
Yeah. Okay.
In the stepping thread group, if you want to apply proper ramp up times, then you'll use the
Yeah.
stepping thread group.
Okay.
Proper ramp up, if you have to use it, then you have to go for stepping thread group.
Yeah.
So if you don't have such kind of requirements, then you'll go by default thread group.
Okay. Yeah.
So once the thread group is added, so we
Yeah.
have to do this before recording all this information, whatever we are discussing about. Okay, so
Okay.
we have just configured the port, what how to for recording purpose. But before
Yeah.
starting the recording, first we have to do the IP, the port configuration. Then we have to add the thread group under the test plan.
Yeah.
Okay, after that, under the thread group, we have to add the logic controller.
Yeah.
Okay, so how your logic should be controlled. Whatever the functionality that you are recording, how it has to be controlled while executing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that is the purpose. We have a logic controller. So in the thread,
Okay.
so in the thread group, we'll say how many users and how much time it has to run, how many times it has to execute.
Okay.
In the logic, we'll say how it has to be executed.
Okay.
So we'll be having different types of controllers. So
Hmm.
recording controller, transaction controller, while controller, if controller. So like that, there are multiple controllers. So
Yeah.
normally, what we'll be having, like if you have a booking the tickets, okay, let's assume you are
Yeah.
booking the ticket. So what normally we'll do,
Okay.
we'll do the login and we'll book the ticket and we'll log out, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And if you want,
Transaction.
yeah, so if you have to repeat that inside the booking activity only repeated, not the login and log out, right?
Yeah.
So there will be two cases. Either you want every time login and log out, or only the activity only needs to be repeated, not the login and log out.
Okay.
So these are the two cases. In the first case, let's assume you want every time login and logout should happen.
Yeah.
So in that case, you can use anything. Either you can use a recording controller or transaction controller.
Okay.
You can do that. But let's assume you have to use only login and logout should happen only once, and the remaining activity has to repeat multiple times. So in
Okay.
that case, we'll use loop controller for actual activity. So whatever you are doing for the booking flight. So that will keep you under the
Oh,
loop controller.
okay.
Login and logout will keep under once only controller.
Okay.
So this will be executed only once.
Okay.
What are the code that will
So
be there in this controller?
maybe it will be for single user or once only will be.
Users wise, it will be there.
Okay.
So we'll see one after the other when we actually doing that scripting. So, but we have
Okay.
to
Yeah.
add one controller among these. So if you have any
Yeah.
condition to be used, you'll use based on your condition. If for each or while or
Oh,
switch.
okay.
So based on the
Yeah.
conditions, you'll use it. So for now, we
Okay.
just add the transaction controller. If you want to capture transactions also, so instead of
Yeah.
by default, Jmeter will provide you the request-wise responses. What are the requests that are involved as part of your functionality? All the individual
Yeah.
requests, it will provide you the response. But if you want to
Okay.
get the page-wise responses, so then you
Uh-huh.
will use the transaction controller. So each and
Okay.
every page, if you want to get the response times, then you use the transaction controller.
Okay.
So, but basically for performance testing, we'll provide page-wise responses. Even as part of requirement gathering, also we used to get we require request for the SLA for each and every page involved as part of that specific transactions.
Okay.
Right? For just as we discussed right yesterday for inbox functionality. So we should get as part of inbox. There will be different steps you have to do. First, you have to launch the Gmail. Then you have to log into the Gmail. Then you have to click on the inbox. Then you have to open the one
Yeah.
of the email. So for each and every
Okay.
activity, for each and every page that was involved as part of these steps, will get the SLA for each and every page. What is the response times?
Oh,
Acceptable response times. So to validate that,
okay.
we'll use the transaction controller.
Okay.
So for each and every page to get it. So once it is added, then we'll start the recording. So thread
Oh,
group and transaction controllers we will add, then we'll
yeah.
start with your recording.
Okay.
But before that, let's assume you have to be more clear on the functionality wise. How many transaction controllers you want
Yeah.
as part of your functionality? First, you have to write the test steps clearly. So let's assume we have a inbox functionality. So inside this inbox, what are the steps involved? So you have to launch application, then you have login, then you
Okay.
have click on inbox, then click open or any one email. Right. So these are the steps involved as part of the inbox. So that means these
Yeah.
many transactions you have to add these many transaction controllers. Since for each and every activity you want the response.
Okay.
So these many transaction controllers you will add. So you
Yeah.
can follow the standards like for launching the URL, you can provide the name. Instead of directly
Hmm.
launch application, you can provide some standards you can follow. Let's say this inbox is your first functionality. Then you have a
Hmm.
second functionality as a send email. So like this, if you have multiple functionalities, so you'll follow the standards like so. First script number will provide 01 underscore application name. Whatever the application name you are having, let's say Gmail,
Yeah.
Gmail underscore in the function will be inbox. Okay. After that, we'll provide these transaction numbers 01, 2, 3, and 4. So here we'll provide again inbox. Inside the inbox, these are the steps we have 01 underscore launch URL.
Okay.
So like this, you can follow some standards in providing the transaction names. So the functionality name will be constant for that script. When you go to the second script, then it will become your this will be second. So in this script, it will be second. That is login. 3 underscore click inbox. 4 underscore open email. So like this, you can follow the standards.
Yeah.
Similarly, when it comes to the second script, so this 01 will become 02 here,
Okay.
and inbox will become your send email.
Yeah.
So like this, you can follow some standards to make it look good when you are providing the
Okay.
report. So in the report, it will look nice.
Yeah.
So that's the standards that we follow. So as part of this, let's assume we are recording for inbox. Then you have to add four controllers, four logic controllers since we have four transactions.
Okay.
So you have to add four transaction controls. You can copy this on the thread group 4 times. So here you'll provide the names. So you'll rename with the actual names, whatever you want to make. So like this, you can add different transaction controllers and provide the some naming standards.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we'll start with your recording. So here we'll select what in which controller you want to record
Yeah.
specific step. So each and every step before starting it, you'll change the transaction controller.
Yeah.
So that specific part will be recorded under this specific transaction.
Yeah.
Okay. So just is it clear? Up to here, any doubts do you have?
No doubts.
Okay. So basically, as part of our training, I will explain about the. I will take HP web tour site default.
Okay.
So to work this site, we have to start the web server.
Okay.
So by default, this site has Jojo as a username password, Jojo Bean. So let's assume
Okay.
it is basically booking a flight. So
Okay.
I'll explain in next sessions how to record and all. So it has basically for booking the flight, you have to select the flight source and destinations
Okay.
and how many passengers you want to travel.
Okay.
Then we'll continue. Here you will select what the flight in which flight you want to travel,
Okay.
and then here we will provide the passenger details. What is their names?
Okay.
And then say continue. So this has booked the flight. So as part of our sessions, we'll record this and we'll do on this. We'll start the correlation part.
Okay.
So if you observe in this, you'll be having a challenge like so based on the flight you'll select, right. So here based on the number of passengers whatever you'll provide. Let's say you provided
Yeah.
three. So if
Mm-hmm.
you observe, these are constant. These four flights will be there. So every time you can select randomly any one flight, right?
Okay.
Not always you'll travel with the same flight. So,
Okay.
so this is the one place where you can correlate and randomly pick one flight from this available list.
Okay.
So this is one correlation we can do it. And then the other challenge is here if you observe, you have mentioned three passengers, so three text boxes came.
Yeah.
So if you provide the four here, then there you will get four flights, the
Yeah.
passenger, four text boxes. So this is the one challenge
Okay.
we'll be having. So your page is changing here. The body of the page is changing based on the input you are providing it. So
Yeah.
for this part you have to record. You have to create a custom body. So you have to write
Okay.
your own code in such a way that it has to capture as many number of passengers you are giving. So that many text
Mm-hmm.
boxes times it has to repeat. Your logic has to repeat that many times.
Oh.
So there you will here to generate this request you will use the preprocessor
Okay.
where you will write your own code in such a way that whatever the number of passengers you will be giving that many text boxes it will be able to show in the page.
Okay.
So you'll iterate the your script such a way.
Okay.
So this scenario will cover most of the cases whatever we will be having it.
Okay.
Okay. And similarly in the itinerary we have it's like for canceling the flight you can select a flight and you cancel it.
Okay.
Okay, you'll select the one of the flight what you want to cancel. You select that one and you'll cancel it. So while canceling
Okay.
it, so any one from you have to first get how many flights you have total, and you can normally
Okay.
will select any one from the available list, right? We will not select always the
Okay.
first one. We will not always select the first one. We will select anyone randomly in real
Yeah.
time, right? So we'll select whatever the flight you want. So we'll select that one and then we'll say cancel. So this is one more challenge we'll be having it. How to select which the randomly from this checkbox. So
Okay.
from these many flights what we have. So that is another challenge we'll be having.
Yeah.
So these are the cases where we'll use the preprocess. We'll
Okay.
build the custom request. So as long as you are deleting, the number of text boxes fields will reduce. While recording, you might have
Oh,
40, but when you are replaying it, it will get reduced. So accordingly, you have to create your script.
okay.
So these are the challenges we'll be having it. So these cases we'll use the preprocess to create a custom page.
Okay.
Okay. So as part of our recording and as part of our sessions, we'll cover this web tools application.
Okay.
On this I will give you the training. While practicing, you can use any application, and if you get any trouble, you can ask me so that in the sessions we'll get it clarified.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So today I'll just show you how to record, and after that I'll stop it. In the next session, we'll see how to correlate.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as part of this site, we have for flight bookings, we have 6 steps involved.
Okay.
Okay. So I will add the 6 transaction controllers. So these are the transaction controllers it has. So we'll start recording that. So to record, we have to just say start recording.
Okay.
So it will say here we are by default it is using use recording controller, but we have added
Okay.
transaction controllers.
Yeah.
So you have to select in which transaction controller you want to record. So let's say I'm starting the launching URL. So the launch
Okay.
part you'll add in that.
Okay.
We'll type the URL. So once the page is loaded, so it is not accepting the proxy.
Mm-hmm. Use this proxy. So we don't need to select this or use this server for all protocols, or
No, that is not required. I think maybe
okay.
some other application might be using that port. Yeah, so this is the one thing where
Yeah.
So
certificate.
certificate. So this will be there in the bin folder. So first time you have to
Yeah,
install that. So after that, from after that also you will get the warning.
automatic.
Yeah, you can ignore that.
Okay, yeah.
Even if you install, it will show you, but you can ignore that after installing it.
Okay.
So 81 port is used by some other application. So I have changed the port.
Okay.
So now the launch URL is done. So it was recorded the events.
Okay.
So after that we have to do the login. So we have to change the controller type. So we have to log in the login part in the login controller. So once the login is loaded, I will again change the transaction controller. So I have to click on the flight. Once this page is loaded, then again we have to change the transaction controller.
Okay.
So if you miss out changing this, what happens? So for two pages, you'll get in the same transaction, the response times.
Yeah.
So while preparing the report, you may get that SLAs might be breaching because we have two pages in the single transaction. So we will not be able to analyze for each page how much time it has taken.
Okay.
So that's the reason you have to be clear and conscious while doing the recording.
Okay.
So once recording is done, you have to stop it, and you can see all the transaction controls will be having the events that was captured.
Yeah.
So this way it will be recorded, and you can see some of the requests may not be required since as part of browsing. So
Hmm.
these are all recorded some security related stuff, caching.
Okay.
So you can delete all this. These are not related to the application. So this is related
Okay.
to the malware and phishing. Right? So you can ignore, delete these all. Whatever relevant to the application, you can keep them.
Okay.
So that you can understand if you see your application. So even if you are replaying it, this will fail always. So whatever that are
Okay.
not relevant to the application, if it is there, then it will always fails. So you can delete them directly.
Okay. So normally, even I used to get the doubt like, how can we say that this is relevant to the application and this is not? Because it is all recording, part of recording, right?
Yeah, as part of recording, if you observe in middle, so so we'll be in our application, in our laptops or desktops, we'll be having what it is, antivirus will be running, right? So when some of the sites
Yeah.
are trying to access here, let's say as part of this, when it's trying to
Yeah.
load the here the Java control, right, for the date.
Okay.
So there it is
Yeah.
trying to check that whether that is a valid one or not. The it is
Okay.
trying to run the Java. So
Okay.
your malware will try to validate, right, whether it is a file can be trusted or not.
Yeah.
So that way you have to see the files. Obviously, the URLs, whatever you will be seeing, the request will be different from what your application URL related.
Okay.
So each request it will be having a. So if you observed previously, it has google.com, right? But our application is all about local IP and then reservations or flights related. The IP will be local host. But in that
Yeah.
URLs, if you observed, everything is Google.
Okay.
So that is not relevant to our application at all. So that way you can identify that request whether those are relevant to our application or not.
Okay.
So this is the way we'll record, and once it is done, so we have to see by replaying the script whether it is working fine or not. So to do that, first we have to add the listeners.
Okay.
So listeners is nothing but it is helpful
Well,
to analyze the result, and also it is for the analysis purpose. How the results, the
yeah.
response times, how much it has taken.
Okay.
So it's like these are the helpful for the analysis purpose. The listeners are.
Okay.
So by default, when you are replaying it for debugging purpose, we'll use the view results tree.
Okay.
This listener will add it. So as the test plan level, you will add it normally, so that it will be applicable to all the thread groups that are available as part of our script.
Okay.
So these things can be added at thread group level or test plan level. If it is
Yeah.
added at thread group level, so it is applicable only to that thread group. If you have
Okay.
multiple thread groups in the single test plan, if you add that in the test plan level, then all the thread groups related information can be seen in that view results too.
Okay.
And these listeners are view results tree is a more memory consuming listener.
Okay.
So normally we'll add only one listener and we'll configure what are all it has to be stored, the information. The checkboxes will
Okay.
select what all you want to capture as part of it, and you'll
Okay.
save it into one file. The results can be stored into some file. After test, you want to view some different listener, then you can directly import that file and see the result.
Okay.
So that way you can reduce the memory footage. So if you add multiple listeners, each listener will take more memory, and for each and every listener, it will capture all the information what you have configured.
Okay.
So which will create more memory consumption. So to avoid that, we'll add one listener. We'll configure whatever the information that we want to capture. Then we'll store that result into one file, whatever the path we
Okay.
want it, and we'll create extension. You can use .jtl as a result file extension. So let's say the temp slash result dot JTL. So once you execute the test, the result will be stored into this file.
Okay.
So if you want to view the another listener information, let's say you want to see how the aggregate report. So we want to check the 90 percentile or 95 percentile, then we'll add this and we'll directly browse that file instead of
Okay.
adding it during the runtime. After the test, we can directly add that result file and see how much it was taken. So how
Okay.
much was the 90 percentile. So this way you can reduce the memory footage.
Okay.
So this is the helpful. This is the benefit of using listeners. So it will be helpful to analyze the results.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I will stop it today's session here, and tomorrow we'll see how to do the correlation part and
Okay.
how to analyze. So from where we can check how to correlate. So basically we'll use the view results tree.
Okay.
So from this we'll capture the boundaries and we'll do the correlation stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So is it clear everything what we have discussed today? Any doubts or confusion?
Mm, no doubts. Yeah, but I have to see them again and again. I
Yeah.
have to go through them more so that I can maybe I'll get some doubts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. So tomorrow we'll see about the correlation stuff. So,
Okay. Yeah.
okay.
So you'll be sending the recording in the morning, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, it is
After that.
taking 2 hours to convert. So that's the result.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's fine.